Right there is the starting point. You may notice I don't have my bag with me because my bag is at the bottom of the hill and I need to get up here and do a warm-up. As you can tell, I'm breathing pretty hard already. I just checked. It's supposed to be another 4.5 hours of walking. I'm gonna take longer than that. It says it's another 600 meters in elevation gain. I'm gonna have to say this is probably gonna be one of those things I look back on and say, oh, that was great. But in the moment, this stretch, it sucks. After the most physically demanding day of my life, finally made it to the first stop. So there've been a lot of these stone pathways on the downhill, which is absolutely murdering my ankle. Something popped in my ankle, so that's gonna be a deliberate decision and influence on the decision that I've pretty much already made. Kind of biding my time in Pamplona until the bus this afternoon. That's all I can do.
My name's Jack Rogers. In June of 2023, I decided I'd had it with normal life and set out to travel the world. 2 years later, I'm still going. I've seen some cool things in my time. I've swam the Nile, followed a matador around Spain, dived the world's oceans, and even returned to Iraq after 5 years away. Now I'm off on my next expedition, an 18-month trek through some of the world's most fascinating pilgrimages. My journey will take me to 12 countries as I walk in the shoes of religious pilgrims, ancient traders, and soldiers who blazed these trails centuries ago. This isn't just another trip. Unlike my first journey, I won't be walking the earth aimlessly. This is a chance to walk with purpose, to trace the footsteps of those who move for faith and survival. These routes carry stories, and I intend to find mine among them. I've never attempted anything like this before, but after 2 years of discovering what this world has to offer, I'm ready to take the plunge into some of life's deeper meaning. I'll be tested, physically and mentally, but I know in the end, it will all be worth it as I become a wayfarer.
Another day, another bus ride, and I've made it to Estella, España. It is 2 stops down from Pamplona on the Camino de Santiago. We passed to Puente la Arena on our way here. It's not very far by car, but it is a day's walk from Pamplona. And interestingly, both of these cities have encierros during their fiestas. So right now, Puente la Arena's fiesta is going on. Their encierros are with vaquillas, which are the cows, the hecklers. And then here in Estella, here in a week, I won't be here for them, unfortunately. They will have their fiesta starting on August 1st, and they will have encierros for that as well as Encierro Chiqui, I think, in a separate festival of theirs. So I'll miss it, but that's not what this expedition is all about. Maybe a future one, I'll try all these encierros across Spain.
Estella is a Basque town about 40 minutes away from Pamplona by bus. It's 2 stops down from Pamplona on the Camino, but I had to skip Puente la Arena. Their fiesta was going on and I just couldn't stand the walk. Walking through town, I saw a lot of medieval looking stands and dresses. I was kind of confused as I made my way to my hostel.
So I did confirm with the hostel the fiesta is next week. However, in that last set of clips, you saw the kind of range of characters are. So there's the medieval fair this week that I will be able to enjoy. Now it is about 3:45 right now, which in a small town like Estella with the sun, it is pretty hot in the sun, means that it's closed for the siesta.
Even though it was a travel/rest day, I still wanted to walk around the town a bit. Unfortunately, because of St. James Day and the time of day for the siesta, most everything was closed, including the supermarket. Still, I got my bearings before heading out around town the next morning when I would explore the churches and the medieval history.
The wall behind me is a monastery of Santa Clara, and it's closed. And I don't mean like closed like there's nuns there today, but it looks closed as in like shut down, no one's allowed in, condemned from all the wire gates and metal fixings over the doors, which is kind of sad because I would really love to see inside of this what appears to be a beautiful monastery.
In the town's main square, the Plaza de los Hueros, stood its main cathedral, the Iglesia de San Juan Bautista. named after St. John the Baptist. I couldn't go in at the time, but I knew I needed to come back.
Day 6 along the Camino de Santiago. Still in Estella, and it is after 9 but before noon, before 1, which means I'm not allowed in my hostel, or albergue as they're called on the Camino. I'm going to write a piece on Jack's journal for that kind of weird phenomenon that is common amongst albergues. I am standing here at what will be the bullpens for the encierros next week, and since I'm not walking the Camino anymore, I do have the opportunity to explore churches and monasteries, which is what I'm going to do today. I've got my knee brace on, my ankle brace on, I got my new Pamplona bull sweatshirt, so I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing some of these old buildings. I finished up reading Matthew this morning. Part of my goal for the Camino portion of this expedition is to read the entire New Testament straight through. So I think it's a good morning start to what hopefully is a good day of exploring the town's Catholic history and influence.
Estella is a medieval town established around the year 1090, back when the Kingdom of Navarre was still the Kingdom of Pamplona. It was built adjacent to the village of Lazar, and the town is actually called Estella Lazar in most official correspondence. Within the town, there were 4 official boroughs: San Miguel, San Juan, San Martin, and San Salvador. While each was a part of the town of Estella Lazar, some of them enjoyed royal decrees and protections, like the ability to hold weekly or daily markets, while others of them did not. This church, the Iglesia de San Sepulcro, welcomes pilgrims into the village. Unlike other towns so far on the Camino, the route actually horseshoes around the southern end of town, barely scraping it as it goes to the next spot.
The Camino de Santiago actually runs straight down in front of that church. In fact, as I'm recording periodically, you might see some men on bicycles coming by because they're bicycling the Camino, and this runs straight through town. In fact, this road's blocked off up ahead to driving traffic because of the medieval fair. But at least, as I'm traveling along these cities, I can actually walk some important parts of the Camino, which I am going to really appreciate, I think, especially as it has to do with churches like that one.
Just as you enter the actual town on the Camino, you run into the municipal albergue. These albergues are operated by the local municipal government and are common in the smaller towns. You can't make reservations though. They're first come, first served for beds, so it's often better to reserve at a hostel or albergue that's private. I was up early for a small town along the Camino, so there was hardly anyone out and about. Still, I got to enjoy some of the sights free from tourists and pilgrims trying to snap their pictures before moving on their way. Like, for example, the Royal Palace, which is now a museum. It's interesting that it's called the Royal Palace when there's no record of a monarch actually having ever stayed here. While technically a part of the same town, each of the boroughs protected itself against the others as a part of the intra-city conflicts that were common at the time. Like in Pamplona, the boroughs each had their own iglesia. This iglesia, the Iglesia de San Pedro de la Rua, was the first to be established in town and protected the borough of San Martin. It was closed when I first arrived, but I was still able to get some amazing outside shots, and the views of the surrounding countryside were amazing. It was easy to see why they established this church this high up on the hill next to the Camino de Santiago. It was also amusing to see the Iglesia de San Miguel across the river, knowing that it was once a rival borough. The inside of the iglesia was dark. The lights being off was something I learned was common in this city. I kind of liked it though, because it allowed you to take in the religious scenes without everyone standing around taking pictures because there was no good light. The iglesia was also free to visit, as was the cloister behind, which made it even better.
So something I always forget in Europe is that things don't open until 9, probably 10. And I'm a morning person, so I'm up 7, 8 o'clock going to get coffee, and I want to go see these churches before the crowds get there. Unfortunately, they're not open. So, just is what it is. You gotta take what you can, but very beautiful church. I just, wish I wasn't hanging out in this part of town this entire time.
With the Iglesia de San Pedro de la Rua behind me, it was time to cross the river into San Miguel. Even this medieval bridge has a storied history. It was once located next to a prison and became a point of contention during the Carlist Wars, when it was ordered destroyed, that order ignored, and then given again, as the Basque struggled against both the Carlist and the Spanish. The river, too, has always been a point of contention in town, as the boroughs needed access for fishing, washing, and general commerce. This walkway is now called the Paseo de San Miguel, but once upon a time, these walkways actually housed watchtowers. In modern times, though, the biggest concern is dog poop, and there are signs telling you so. Standing tall over the borough of San Miguel is the Iglesia de San Miguel. Evidence says that there's been a church on this site since about 1145, with the oldest part of this church dating to the 1180s. Like every Iglesia de San Miguel, this one is dedicated to the Archangel Michael, the leader of God's armies during the war in heaven. It was easy to see why this church was built so high up on this hill. It could provide a beacon to those in the city, as well as those on the Camino. It could also serve as a watchtower over the other boroughs during intercity conflict, and as an outpost looking for foreign armies, which makes sense since it was built during the time of the invasion of Navarre by the Castilians. I learned that the churches in Estella don't remain permanently illuminated. You have to drop a euro coin in a box so that the lights will turn on. Some might balk at that idea, but you have to remember that the churches run on donations like this, so I didn't have a problem. I just wish it accepted coins other than the 1 euro coin, because all I had were 2s. From this outlook, I could see the last church I visited, the Iglesia de San Pedro de la Rua, and my next destination, la Iglesia de San Juan Bautista. On my way, though, I had to pass through the medieval fair, and I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to check out this unique tradition. I eventually heard music, thinking that I would hear the band similar to in Pamplona, but no, it was a traveling jester's court. I only caught them in passing, because like the gigantes and cabezudos in Pamplona and Bilbao, they were surrounded by children, but I'd catch them again later. In a square in front of the Iglesia de San Juan Bautista, they had a medieval market, with everything from liquor stands to garden gnomes, even herbs that claimed to cure every disease from diabetes to cholesterol. Unlike St. James Day the day before, I could actually visit the church this time. Like the Iglesia de San Miguel, it cost €1 to illuminate it, so I couldn't do it on my own. I would just have to wait till the tourists walked in. That didn't mean I couldn't soak up the sights though. As I learned a couple years ago, some things are just for me. Sitting in the quiet, still, dark church gave me time to reflect on this entire journey, as well as rest up my knee. I was working through the New Testament during this trek, and I marveled at the scenes on display before me on the main retablo. After a little bit more exploring, where I encountered kids being able to hold hawks on their arms and medieval games, it was time to head back for a siesta before making the walk up to my final destination in town. The Basilica de la Virgen del Puy sits on the hill that overlooks the entire city. It is named for the city's primary patronus. Though the church was built in the 1930s to the 1950s, the veneration of this Marian devotion goes farther back. According to legend, some shepherds tending to their flock in the hills found a carving of the Virgin Mary and named it after a similar veneration in France. This happened in 1085, and the King of Navarre ordered an hermitage constructed in her honor. While the altarpiece was ornate and decorative, I really enjoyed the fact that this basilica was simple inside. It showed me that the focus should be on the Mass and the message, not the lore and doctrine.
You know, with all the crowds and hustle and bustle of the medieval fair down in the main town up here at the Puy Basilica, it's a lot more serene, quiet, peaceful, and you'd never guess that all that was going on.
With this final basilica behind me, I headed back to my hostel to prepare for my travel day to Logroño ahead. As with the Great Gallivanting and the Aficionado Tour, another day, another bus ride.
So that's it for part 2 of my first week on the Camino. Hope you enjoyed the video and my time in Estella. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss a single thing coming to you from the adventure across the world. And also check out my Instagram at JRTVoyage and Threads account with the same handle, and my website, jackrogersauthor.com, to more details and daily thoughts as I take on this wild, crazy adventure. We'll see you guys on the road.